welcome to another midday recipe. This one's such an easy one today. It is so ridiculously easy. Just five ingredients, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and one of them is water. So, which you can get out of your tap. So there you go. Okay guys, so, as ever, the deal is that you guys can ask me questions, you can ask me about substitutions. With this recipe, you can ask me about substitutions with any recipe, because I know that's always one of the things that can really stop you from making a recipe, is because you don't quite have the right ingredients. You might have all of the others, and then there's one that you don't have, and quite often we'll think, well, that means that I just can't make this recipe. So I'm just going to get the live up on my little tiny computer over here. And then I can see the questions that you guys might have for me. Okay, so I'm the right way round today. I'm the right way round today. Good morning, Jeff. Afternoon. Thank you for joining me. Colleen says good morning. Good morning. Ingrid, thank you for joining me. And Ingrid's going to be admin for us today. So, if you guys have quite a lot of questions, and sometimes they can get a bit lost in the feed there, so I sometimes miss them, so Ingrid will do her best to give me a little bit of a nudge if I do miss any, we can always go back over them later on today and just check that we've got all of your questions answered. Sue said, hi Day, I'm hoping you can use any protein powder, as I have loads of this in various flavours. Okay, Sue, a really good question for you. What type of protein powder is it? So is it hemp, is it pea, is it soy? Is it, I'm trying to think of any others, which one is it? So not the brand necessarily, but the type of protein powder, because they do act in different ways. So, right, yes, so important thing to say, there is a rainbow somewhere in my kitchen today. It's a very serious matter, and I can't find it, so I need you guys to find it for me, please. I've been looking everywhere for it all morning, cannot find it. Can you help me out? So, on to today's recipe. We've had quite a run of sweet recipes on the show recently. We had Katie making her amazing PB&J Lamingtons yesterday. What have we also had? We also had sticky toffee banana pudding as well the other day. So we were having a bit of a run on these sweet things. I have to admit I'm feeling it a little bit. Sorry. Because we don't end up just making one batch. We make several just to, develop the recipe and test it out and have here's one I made earlier, and then we've got the one on the show. So, right, cookies for lunch. I'll do it just for you guys. Just for you, I will have cookies for lunch again. Okay, on to the recipe. So our 5 ingredients today are, starting with our hemp powder. So, the different types of protein powder will react in a different way. So some of them are more thirsty than others, which means that some will need more moisture, more water content, or whichever the liquid is that you're adding into it, and some will not so much. And also they will have a slightly different flavour as well, and therefore they'll go with other flavours, varying different flavours, I mean. So hemp powder is this delightful shade of camo green, which of course is incredibly tasty looking. I'm being sarcastic there, if you cannot tell. But the great thing about hemp powder, hemp protein powder, is that it goes really well with cocoa or cacao. So, and also the colour of the cacao or cocoa powder masks the delicious camo green of the hemp powder. So they're a really good combination to have together. But if you've got something like pea protein or soya protein, then you won't necessarily need to cover up the colour, because they're just, a general kind of blonde colour, which is great for baking with. And you won't have to, you won't have to cover up the colour. yeah, so you don't have to worry about adding something like cocoa powder into it. But one thing, sorry, I'm just getting more comments up here. One thing about the different flavours of protein powder is that they do have, it's not just about the colour, it's also about the flavour. So with like pea protein, it can taste quite pea-y. Let me just have a look on here and see if I think I've missed one of the comments. So, Sue, okay. Ariel, hello Chef Day and Ingrid. I don't have any protein powder at all. Is there anything you can use instead? Okay, so basically, you can use this like a gluten-free flour. So, I'm a big fan of gram flour because it's an all-round, standard flour that you can buy from a lot of supermarkets. You can buy it online now as well. But you can just use regular plain flour. But I know that a lot of people are having trouble finding regular wheat flour at the moment. And we did get asked, we always ask you guys, what back of the cupboard ingredients do you have? And we'll try and find a recipe to show you, something you can do with it. Maybe something that you haven't thought of before, hopefully. That's the whole point of us being here. So somebody asked us about protein powder because, I've done it myself, like buying this stuff and then making smoothies, a few times post-workout, and then it sits in my cupboard and it's expensive stuff, so you don't want to just throw it away. You want to make use of it. So we're going to make use of it by making cookies. I know, that's pretty awesome. Colleen said the rainbow is above the word 5. Yes, well done, Colleen. Thank you for finding the rainbow for us today. Very quick off the mark there. Gloria, Doug, Tanya and Karen, thank you for joining me. And thank you for joining me again, because I know all you guys have been with us many times before. Errol says, yay for gram flour. She has this. Awesome, awesome. That's going to give you a good protein boost anyway, because gram flour is high in protein. Okay, so this is the protein powder we're using for today. Just to say, I'm using it from the guys from Pulsen. I really, really like their the ingredients that they make. They're very, very consistent with what they do, very, very high quality. So check these guys out. They do these really lovely little bars that I'm absolutely addicted to, maple and peanut. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that into the bowl there, and then we have 50 grams of cocoa powder or cacao. This is actually cacao, so this is the one that I have used today, but you can just use cocoa powder. The taste will be exactly the same, Just make sure you're using a cocoa powder that doesn't have any sugar in it, because we're going to be putting a ton of sugar in it already, so you don't want to put any more in it. But the only difference between cocoa and cacao is that cacao hasn't been heat treated, so it will have more nutrition in it, basically. So cacao has, I think it's like iron and potassium, if my memory serves me right. So, it's actually like a really, really healthy product, but we always think chocolate isn't healthy, but actually cacao is phenomenally healthy. Okay, Gemma said, could you do half gram flour and half protein powder? You could. The only thing is that you might have to play around with the quantities slightly. When we get a bit further along, I'll show you what the texture should look like. So Jenny said, run out of sugar, can I replace it with date syrup? Yes, absolutely. I think that's a really good substitution. It might be slightly different, you do have to allow for that. But just try it and see. Justine said, I'm at work, I'll have to watch this when I get back. Loving the recipes. Oh, yes, well you just have to catch up with us. And hopefully make them. Okay, so we've got our 50 grams of cocoa in there. So that's 100 grams of hemp, 50 grams of cocoa. So all of the amounts are fairly straightforward as well. So this should be easy for you guys to remember. Abigail said, hey, and we've still got a bunny rabbit, even though it's not Easter anymore. That's brilliant. I think we should just run out the bunny rabbits all year round. Colleen said, the protein powder I have is chocolate flavour. Should I reduce the amount of cocoa? Okay, what I need to know, Colleen, is what type of protein is in there. Is it soy? Is it hemp? Is it pea? I'm trying to think of other ones. I'm sure there's like, for rice, it could be rice protein. Jennifer says that she loves making cookies. Me too, and it's a good job because we've got loads of them now. Loads. So Jeff, dinner tonight, cookies. And then breakfast tomorrow, cookies. And then lunch tomorrow, cookies. Etc, etc. Okay, so you'll see that I'm not just using a spoon, I'm using my trusty whisk here. So Danielle, thank you for joining us. And Colleen said pea protein. Okay, she's got pea protein. Okay, so this is pea protein. And I don't know, try and show this to you guys. If you can see, it is this light colour. Now, pea protein is a lot thirstier than hemp protein. So if you swap it out for the same amount, then this will just like suck up all the water immediately, and you won't be left with any, it will become more like a really thick dough, almost like a choux pastry, you know, like that type of like consistency. You know, so it is different. I did test out, so Jeff's got a big smile because we're basically having cookies every day for infinity. Abigail says she's a bunny girl. I use that emoji all the time. Oh, love it. And Tom, Dr. Tom, thank you for joining us. Okay, so yes, we were talking about pea protein powder. So I did test out this same recipe with pea protein, and I actually had to add double the amount of water, and I didn't add the cacao. So I'll give you the amounts for this afterwards. We always share the written recipe in the comment section in our group, which is the Community Hub. So, you know, thank you for joining the Community Hub if you guys have, and that's where you will find the written recipe. And we are actually working on putting all these recipes onto our website as well, because then they'll be a bit easier for you to find. But this turned out a little bit different, and I will show you guys. If you can see, it's a beautiful colour. I really like the colour that pea protein has given us. I think that's, you know, sorry, the Maillard reaction is very strong in this one. So, you know, that's when things brown and they look tasty, but see the inside is still a bit wet. So this is one that I'm going to have to work on a bit more. And it, you know, it just goes to show that we can't just do like a straight swap out, because with a pea protein, as I said, like it's a lot thirstier. So I'm just going to have to like mess around with that one. But I'll try again later on today and see if I can put that as an alternative together with this recipe. But the problem is if you've got a protein powder that is a mix, which it sounds like you do, I would just double check whether it has anything else in there as well. So if it's just the pea protein powder and the chocolate flavouring, fine, that's really fine. It's probably going to have maybe some stevia in it as well, which will sweeten it, so therefore you won't need as much sugar. So really just have a look at those ingredients. Sue, you can even take a photo of that and share it with me on, in the Community Hub, and I'll see if I can, you know, give you some more advice on that. Gemma says that she can't wait to see all of our recipes on our website. Okay, we're on it. There are already like quite a lot of recipes on that, by the way. But we'll put all of these because these are, you know, new recipes. Okay, so we're going to pop some oil in here, 50 grams of oil. And we've got 200 millilitres of water in here, so I'm just going to put half in and then mix it around. I decided to use this glass bowl today so that you guys could see easier, rather than my high-sided bowl. But of course what that means is that if I kind of like do this as quickly as I normally would, it's going to go everywhere. So I'm going to try and be very gentle with it. Jacob, thank you for joining us today. And Rosie. I haven't seen you guys in a very long time. Okay. So, we've mixed that in a little bit, and we just need the rest of this water. And as I said, I'm just doing it really gently because I've got this smaller bowl today. I normally like to use one of these really high-sided bowls because you can be a lot more gung-ho with it, and I'm really gung-ho with my cooking. I don't like to be gentle at all, apart from when it comes to plating. When it comes to plating, I am very gentle and delicate, and I even have a pair of chef's tweezers, and I try and make it look all pretty. But at this stage, I'm like, yeah, just get it into the oven. Paul said, good to. Oh, you've got someone here. That's nice. That's really nice when people bring their friends, or indeed when people make friends in the group as well. That often happens. Okay, so just mixing this in as carefully as I can so I'm not getting it over the sides. Essentially, at the moment, what it's starting to look like is cake batter. So it is quite wet, but we'll be able to make some really, really lovely shapes with this. Because you know, sometimes that you make chocolate cookies and they're not too smooth. You know, but this comes out really, really nice and smooth. So, you know, the edges are nice and you can make some nice shapes with this. Okay, and that is it. That is our batter. You know, so it's those 5 ingredients. Oops. It's those 5 ingredients, which is the 100 grams of hemp protein powder, 50 grams of cocoa or cacao, 100 grams of sugar. I used coconut sugar, as that is my fave. 50 grams of oil, and I just use a neutral oil. So the oil that I use is this sunflower oil, but you can use, you know, rapeseed or a very light olive oil would also be fine. And 200 milliliters of water, and that is it. That is it. Okay, so now we'll get our baking tray, and we have the magic carpet on here today. So this is our reusable baking sheet, which one of our viewers named the magic carpet, which I think is a really, really lovely name for it. So it just means that, you know, we're not using up all of these you know, bits of paper all the time. Okay, so I'll just get, yeah, these spoons will be good. And actually, let me just bring this up to the camera and show you guys how the mixture is. There we go. There we go. That's what we're looking for. So you can see it's quite liquidy. You're not going to be able to like shape the cookies like that at all. They're going to be dropped onto here. Okay, so Abigail said magic carpet. Yes, exactly. Jenny said, we have shared your sticky toffee pudding recipe with the neighbours and are all cooking a virtual dinner party. Oh my god, that's so cool. That is so cool. You guys are going to be stuffed with that at the end of a 3-course meal, maybe a 3-course meal. Oh, that's going to be a good night, a virtual dinner party. I really like that idea. Okay, so now, whatever size you want the cookies to be, use the right size spoon. Okay, so rather than picking up, you know, this amount and then going, oh, actually I want them to be a bit smaller, so taking a bit off, what that is going to mean is that your cookies are going to be slightly different sizes, which, if you're a pedant like me, is really annoying. So, if you want small cookies, use a small spoon. If you want medium-sized cookies, use this type of spoon, etc, etc. So basically, I'm going to just let the spoon dictate how much is going to be on there, and then drop it onto the magic carpet. And just leaving enough space between them. So I think you should be able to get about 12 of these. About between 10 and 12, I would say, out of the amounts that I've given you. But of course, you know, you can make that into half if you want to, or you can double it. You can double it if you want. The cookies will freeze really, really well. So that's not a problem if you do want to freeze them. I'm sure that I will be freezing some later on today. We have literally like a freezer full of like bits of birthday cake and sticky toffee pudding and you know, all of that jazz. So we do freeze these things quite often. Okay guys, so now is a really good time for you to ask me any questions. Do let us know if there are any particular recipes. So maybe there's like a non-vegan recipe that you would like us to veganize. I know that a lot has already been done now. There are so many non-vegan recipes that have been veganized, but you know, we'll put our own particular spin on it. If we can. I got an order coming on the 20th, shopping order coming, so it's a really good opportunity for you to get your requests in now so that I can pop it onto my shopping list. So yeah, please do let me know, is there anything that you would like us or me to make a recipe for? We have had quite a few requests for seitan. So we are going to get one of the other chefs to do a gluten seitan, and then I'll do a gluten-free seitan one day as well. Okay, so Colleen said I would love a gluten-free bread recipe. You got it. You got it. So we can definitely do that. Do you want just like a normal kind of like loaf, or more kind of like a focaccia, or what is it? What would you like? Maybe you would just like to start off with a basic loaf. You know, sometimes it's good to start with that and then get a bit more fancy. Okay, so there we go. We've got a little bit left over. I'm not going to let that go. So we can just pop some little ones in here. And quite often when I am making something like cookies, I like having these little mini ones, because if you're thinking, oh, are they done yet? Then you can just pop one of these little ones out and it can give you a really good indication. Particularly if it's a cookie that once it cools, it hardens a bit, because you won't necessarily be able to tell what it's going to turn out like when you think like the time is up, because you've got to allow it to cool. So having one of these little ones, okay, I'm not going to get any more out of that. Having these little ones is really handy in that way. So now you can decorate them. You don't have to decorate them, they're absolutely fine as they are, you know, really lovely. The ones that I made yesterday, I actually used these cute little stars. So Jenny said version of fish pie. Yes, absolutely, we can definitely do that. I like the word veganize. Is that the correct spelling? I'm not sure whether it's an official word at the moment, but let's make it one. Let's make it one. And therefore, you know, you can come up with your own spelling. But I think the SE, I would prefer, because I'm British, but Americans might say it's a ZE or a ZE. So let me just see if I've missed a couple of questions up here. There we go. Okay, Abigail said curry is super cool, would love to see that. Okay, yes, I think I would probably defer to Arpita, because I think, you know, she'll be able to give us like lots more information about the spices and stuff. I do love making curry, but because Arpita is from Kerala, I think she can probably kick my ass when it comes to curry, let's face it. So yeah, so we'll definitely get her to do one of those. So Arpita is on Mondays. So every Monday, Arpita will be teaching us a recipe. And yeah, we've got the fish pie and basic bread. Curry can be too hot. Well, in that case, I would say that when we do the curry recipe, ask that as a question. Ask that as a question, because there are ways that you can make it not too hot. You know, when we made the spiced carrot soup, which you can find the recipe for that on our page, we added, so it was creamed coconut, Or you can add yogurt or coconut milk. So that is a really good way that but it does therefore like change the recipe. Okay, Abigail says she loves spicy food. Karen said, would you be able to do a nut cheese? Yes, absolutely, absolutely. The only thing about nut cheese is that there are like so many different recipes, and there are some that are more of like a cream cheese, you know, like something that you can put onto a pizza that looks a bit like melted cheese already, you know, so it's more like a sauce, like a cheese sauce. There is that, but then of course there's the stuff that you can cut, which can get a bit more complicated, and especially when we're going to look at things like introducing bacteria into it, then it can get really, really quite technical. So, you know, is it just like a really simple kind of like easy one that's quite basic that you want? I think that for most people that might be better, but it's not going to necessarily be one of those like, you know, fancy nut cheeses that we find in the shops now. Okay, so we've got some ground hazelnuts. When I say ground, I mean like I literally just like pop them into a pestle and mortar, and just gave them a little bit of a bash. So I'm just scattering those on top. So you can use loads of different things that you can find in your cupboard to make these just a little bit more interesting. As I've said to you guys time and time again, one of our chef's tricks is to add bits and pieces, you know, little scatterings of things, and it just makes stuff look nicer, basically. Kieran and Jim, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. Okay, let me bring these over to you guys. Okay, so hopefully you can see how glossy they look. And how... Ooh, nearly slid off there. And how, you know, they've got quite a nice shape to them, quite a nice sheen to them. So... now we will fake put them into our oven, and here's one I made earlier. So they go into the oven at 170 degrees Celsius or 340 degrees Fahrenheit or gas mark 3. So that's 170 Celsius, 340 Fahrenheit, gas mark 3. So you can put them in for half an hour, and if you do that, then you get kind of soft cookies, and this is our soft cookie. If you put them in for an extra 10 minutes, then you get more of a crunchy cookie. So I don't know if you guys could hear that. Let me see if we can just come a bit closer. And so this is the one that went into the oven for 30 minutes, half an hour. And it's soft on the inside. This has got a little bit of softness on the inside, but mainly... Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Let me know. Let's try and do it again. Yeah. Okay. So if you want them to be crunchier, then basically just cook them for a bit longer. We are doing it on quite a low heat, and that's because we just don't want them to burn. So we want them to like really like try and cook through, and you know, lose as much moisture as possible and get to be, you know, at least like a bit crunchy on the outside. But it's up to you as to like whether you want it to be more of a firm cookie, you know, or a bit soft, you know, and a bit more kind of cakey cookie. So Abigail said she heard it every time. Good. Because I don't know whether you guys can hear these things, so I could hear it, but Gloria heard the snap. Exactly. So that is our recipe for today. How easy is that? How easy was that? And we're bang on time, 12:30. But if you guys have any more questions, heard that breaking on the second cookie. Good. So yeah, I think, you know, if you want more of a crunchy cookie, then you bake them for 40 minutes. And do put them in the middle of the oven, not at the top, okay? In the middle, and preferably on their own without other stuff cooking in there as well. That would be really, really good. Debbie said, I just got here, so sorry if this has already been addressed, but could I make it without sugar? Okay, so the sugar that we use today is coconut sugar, which is my sugar of choice. It is going to be difficult to completely have exactly the same cookie. You could use something like dates, you could blend them into it, but it is going to change the texture. And the reason why is because when sugar cooks, it melts, and then when it cools, it hardens. So it does help with this crunchiness. So you might end up with, more of a kind of like soft cookie, but you'll have to like test it out. So that is, one option of doing it with like blended dates, which would be really, really lovely. But you just have to bear it in mind that they might not be, quite the same texture. You could also use things like xylitol. I don't know if you've used those before, but again, that's going to be a bit different because you can't just swap out xylitol. No, you can't just swap out sugar for xylitol. There's a ratio to it. So what that would mean is you might be putting too much into it if you did a straight swap. You would have to put in less xylitol than you had sugar, and that would mean there'd be like less bulk. So, I would say like play around with these things. If you are doing it in a different way, then either halve the recipe or just do a quarter of it, just to see, because you don't want to kind of like use all of these ingredients and then it doesn't really work out in the end. That can be a real pain because then you've used up lots of stuff. So, Essie, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. Sharon, can all-purpose flour be used as I don't have protein powder? Look at you for having flour. So we're having a real struggle in this country at the moment. A lot of people can't buy flour. Everyone bought it up in the shops, everyone. So if you are living in London, then Picky Wops are actually not only selling flour, but they are delivering it to you. So Picky Wops is a vegan pizza place. So you can order yourself a load of really good flour as well, because they use like proper, Italian beautiful flour for their bases. So you can order that to be delivered to you and a pizza at the same time, which is pretty awesome. Ingrid, please would you be able to put a link to Picky Wops in the comments? I think that would be great for anybody who's living in London. That said, maybe you're not living in London, Sharon. So yes, I would try it with the all-purpose flour, but the outcome might be slightly different. It might be slightly different. I mean, unfortunately, that is often the case with with flour, because it can be a bit different, and particularly if it's a more thirsty flour. As I said before, I actually tried out the protein powder with this recipe and it didn't turn out quite the same at all. Jenny said, can I use golden caster sugar for these cookies? Yes, absolutely. So whenever I use sugar in recipes, I use coconut sugar. By and large, you can just swap it out for whatever sugar you have. I think it's better to have more of a darker sugar because it has those lovely caramel notes in it. This one particularly has a lot more caramel notes in it, which I really, really like. But yeah, golden caster sugar will be fine. Abigail said, I'm from the US. Really early for me. Cookies for breakfast. See, it's a thing. It's a thing. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that, Ingrid. So the link to Picky Wops is there. And also you can give those guys a follow on Instagram because they are absolutely hilarious and really, really lovely guys. So I'm going to leave it there. Now, I'm all hyped up on cacao and sugar. So it's going to be an interesting afternoon. So please, please, please do join us again tomorrow. Is it Friday tomorrow? Is it? It is Friday tomorrow. I know, we're all losing our days. We're all losing our days. But tomorrow is a very, very, very important show for us because we have our student Nikki with us. So she will be sharing a really, really lovely recipe with us. And Nikki was actually on our most recent course that actually had to get postponed because of all this stuff going on. So she is not quite a graduate. She's got 2 classes left with this huge intermission. But she is really, really, really talented. She has a great background in food, and I'm sure that you will absolutely love what she's going to show us tomorrow. So, same time tomorrow, same time every day, midday, UK time, BST. Join us Do ask us your questions. Do tell us what ingredients you have. Do keep on asking us, you know, to make recipes for you, because this show is for you guys. If it's not helpful for you, then, you know, why are we doing it? Why are we doing it? We're doing it to help you guys out and to get you cooking more. Okay, so Paul said guest presenter tomorrow. Yes, it is Nikki, our guest presenter. It's her first show, so be nice. Be nice. I will be there, making sure you're being nice, okay? But I'm sure she'll get on really, really well. Okay, Abby said that she will try to show up again. This was fun. Good. And you can just come back and just share bunnies with us, because that's really cute. That's really cute. I really like that a lot. Thank you for joining us today. You really, really, really put a massive smile on my face. Have a lovely day.